Welcome to the Color of Success podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Stephanie J. Wong. Many of us are feeling a wide range of emotions: sadness, anger, fear, sometimes hopelessness and helplessness. This season, we will be exploring all the feelings and ways to empower each other to take action. So, let's go. Game on. We are so fortunate to have producer Winnie Cheung and actress Celia Au on the show today to discuss their short film, Last Call, which premiered at the 2025 South by Southwest Midnight Short Program. This short fantasy thriller takes you on the psychological journey of a traumatized motorcyclist who daydreams about a sultry serpent woman and is haunted by her enchanting voice. Winnie's credits include being a co-producer on the South by Southwest Audience Award Winner, Woodlands' Dark and Days Bewitched, A History of Folk Horror in 2021, and has won several awards at Sundance and more. Inspired by David Cronenberg's body horror, American erotic thrillers, and Eastern fantasy films, Last Call reflects Winnie's diasporic identity, a dreamlike blend of the ancestral East and the rebellious West. Celia Au, who previously starred in Wu Assassins and Lodge 49, brings Winnie's vision to life in this story's discovery of profound revelation. We talk about integrating and displaying complex emotions in the film, ways to deal with internal conflicts, and how breathwork, mental visualization, and active listening are key to facilitating a productive and safe work environment. Thank you, Winnie and Celia, for coming on the show. We're so grateful to have you on Color Success. I'm Dr. Stephanie J. Wong, and I know it's a little bit weird to have a psychologist as the host, but it relates to mental health, and we're so excited to have you.
Thank you for having us. I'm excited too.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and I don't think it's weird at all. I feel so honored that you're able to kind of like pick out the things from the story that relate to psychology. I did a lot of like studying of, all the stuff to kind of write it into my story. So I'm excited to talk about it.
Awesome. Well, we'll kick it off. Winnie, tell me a little bit about how you storyboarded all these complex emotions, because, and Celia, I've been a longtime fan from Wu Assassins, and so this is like a huge honor for me. How did you storyboard and execute these complex emotions for the character Claudia?
That's a great question. I would say storyboarding is kind of like the very last step. And all the steps that came ahead of it was like doing the work of journaling, like just self-reflection diaries. I mentioned earlier that I applied a lot of like internal family systems onto Claudia herself. It's a lot of shadow work, my own personal shadow work. So, there's definitely lots of pieces of me going into it, and a lot of dream work that went into it. So it's kind of hard to say like how it got to the storyboard, but like there's so much like pre-association that came with it that got to those final moments. I think with the storyboarding, at the very least, it's like you're always thinking about relationships and relationships between the character and herself, and the other characters, and being able to use the composition of like what's inside the frame to kind of like subconsciously guide the audience into like, okay, this is where she's at. She's feeling small at this moment, and like literally she's small in the frame. Like sometimes it's as simple as that.
Absolutely. Well, it was definitely not a simple short film for sure. So, Celia, how are you able to channel these emotions, as well as what did you draw from for Claudia?
I think first of all, it's Winnie did a lot of the work with us, and she's great with like, giving us like detailed notes of how she wants Claudia to be portrayed. And both Winnie and I are like big fans of Hong Kong cinema and like cinema in general. So she gave me a lot of references. I'm like, hey, like this character from this movie at this part of the film is how Claudia should feel like, or this is how I foresee Claudia would be like. And then we worked together. Winnie's great at doing like breath work. So then we like always prepare with breath work in the beginning. And she always do like, a little bit of a meditation to get us in a state of calmness. And then we apply the characters. And she does a lot of also animal work. So like you kind of pick an animal at this situation, how do you feel Claudia is feeling? What kind of animal is she expressing right now? And then using that, incorporating back into like the human form.
I have to use that today. So that's a great like technique. Um, so thinking a little bit about the scenes that showed substance use. So that's my specialty is working with veterans with substance use disorder. And so I was wondering like what were the implications of having the character use substances in the film, as well as how it played out with the intersection with emotions?
Mm, mm. That's such a great question. Wow, you're really dishing out. Yeah. Um, I would say that it's heavily researched, like based in real life, relationships that I have with my friends, with myself, and also research into lots of readings that are trauma based and how that's related to substance use. I didn't want to just show it willy-nilly. I think the scene is very important, but I also didn't want to over romanticize what's going on. And also it was very important for me to kind of like show all sides of um, substance use. I guess for me, it, something that my friend told me is like, you can't write about your wounds, but you can certainly write about your scars that have
Mm.
healed over. And so I think it was very important for me to show kind of like another side of it, instead of just like really sinking into that part of substance use.
There was something cathartic about it because I liked that it wasn't just focused on that because the viewer was kind of guessing like, well, is this just because she has substance use issues and this psychosis? Again, I can't turn off my psychologist brain, but really,
Yeah.
as it progressed, you started to see the underlying issues that kind of fed into that. And it wasn't just, and it's rarely is substance use disorder based on just using substances. So I liked that aspect of it. So, again, Celia, this is kind of a different role. I'm sure there's intersectionality that you could talk about, but how is this playing this role very different from other roles that you've played?
Ooh, that's a good question. I feel like most of the roles I've played in general are like the happy person or the guru, the seafood, the surfer. And I love that when Winnie first talked to me about this project, I love the layers and the depth and like the emotions that this character is trying to carry. And sometimes a lot of things when like trauma and kind of uh like trauma and like inner feelings, you don't really see in the forefront, right? It's kind of like people trying to hold it back constantly. And I think that was something really interesting to explore. And Winnie was willing to help guide me through it. So it was great, being able to explore that in a safe space. And it took us a bit, we started this in 2020. So I have a
Oh,
lot of
wow.
more time sitting with the Claudia character. And, throughout the last couple of years, Winnie and I would watch, like I said, watch films, we have conversations, and she was like, "Oh, I saw something that I think matches Claudia, even like the way she dressed or how like she carries herself." And then when we talk about substance use, I'm not super familiar with that besides like watching it from film and TV. And then Winnie was great at guiding me and saying like, this is why sometimes people would do X, Y, or Z, how this leads to, a spiral, a chain reaction in Claudia, and like, how her trauma kind of manifests outside now until, I don't want to give up the movie away, but yeah,
No.
until like,
Yeah.
how the climax of the film.
There's definitely a buildup, and
Yes.
it keeps you on your toes. You have to watch it several times to see the nuances of things. And so, you know, honestly, like so many actors have mentioned, they have to go to therapy afterwards. How did you detach from the character when you went home or, as you were thinking about this for, 4 plus 5 years?
I actually think having a really good supporting community and also, the set and what the environment that Winnie created was such a safe space. Literally, they call cut and we're goofing around. And then Winnie's like, okay, come on, let's go back. We're going to start again. And then we go get back into a mood. Like, the crew on set would respect, the process as well. And everyone would be quiet until we start rolling. Second we call cut, we're like, let's go like play again. And I think that helps regulate kind of your emotions and knowing how to separate. I'm not a method actor, so like knowing how to separate the character Claudia versus who Celia is was quite important and being able to pull apart when we're not rolling camera.
Well, Winnie, you're getting a lot of praise here about creating the environment. I think that's so important. How do you think about setting up the environments so that people can thrive?
Mm. I think practicing like ritual making. They could be very, very small things of just like every day when we start a production or, we have a day on set, we just have we stand together in a circle and we're saying today will be a good day.
Mm.
Just small, really small things, whether it's like for myself or for a larger group. I think yeah, starting from yourself makes a big difference. So like if I'm calm, then everybody else around me will feel that energy. Um, yeah, I mean, I think I like to have fun too. So just like keeping things very light. And yeah, it is tackling pretty dark topics, but I think like Celia said, the whole set has been pretty light. And I think everybody that I've worked with, like I'm truly friends with them. And so having one-on-one time to talk about, what's going on in their lives and perhaps how it relates to the story so that we're not processing everything all at once on set. There's like processing that's happening outside. Um, yeah, it's really, really important for me to have a very protected set because I do want to push performances and techniques in a pretty far direction, and the only way to do that is trust. So another thing is like building trust, and it could be like formal exercises, and it can also just be like showing that I'm a trustworthy person.
Huge, 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 huge. And it's very parallel to the therapeutic process. So I'm loving that. Um, Kind of more of a personal question is how do you deal with internal conflicts as you progress through life? I mean, obviously, filmmaking and acting are ways to do that, but it things can get challenging.
Oh my gosh, I'm still learning. I'm still learning. I think that as I've matured as a person and a filmmaker, I think it's a lot to do with active listening and understanding that it making a film might seem like the biggest thing in my life, but it's not the biggest thing in other people's lives. Like in other people's lives, like this is a job. And so I think active listening in like what are the needs of everybody else on set. Like I think I've really repeated to myself that filmmaking for me, filmmaking is caretaking. That's kind of
Mm.
like the stance that I've taken on right now, especially just like how bigger films have revealed themselves as far as like what are we valuing here when we're making a film? Are we valuing on like a financial return? Are we like I'm valuing like an emotional return, and I'm banking on like having all of these like true emotions play out on set and like in the film will kind of like lift us off into the next stage of wherever the film needs to be.
And I think that's a great perspective in terms of constantly learning. I think that people can really stall when they kind of get into this, everyday mundane life. And it's great that you're thinking about all aspects of, mental health. Celia, what about you?
Oh man, like Winnie was saying, I'm still learning. I like recently, just with something I'm doing on the side, I'm dealing with other people and other people's emotions, and I've been learning. I was like, oh, maybe I'm not the best at understanding what certain people's needs are. And I realized that I was like, oh, this is something that I have to learn. I have the personality of a go, 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 go. Like, let's just keep going and keep making things and like keep the momentum going. And I realized that some people, not everyone operates that way, and how people communicate could be different. And I also like realized that like, being friends with people is one thing, and also having a working relationship is very different, and they operate in very different wavelengths. Um, so that's something that I'm still dealing with and I'm still learning. And I think the great thing about being an actor is that you get to channel all of those things through acting, right? And kind of learn by walking in other people's shoes and seeing how they feel. And I was like, I always tell my friends, I'm like, hey, here's the thing. If it doesn't work out, it's okay. For me, the most important thing is our friendship. And, I was like, I can work with other people. We can all work with others and find the right people we can work with. Maybe we could be great friends, but not good working partners. So that is something that I've been dealing with. And I think it's fascinating. And when you hear what people's expressions are and how they feel, I always try to take a step back and understand, because sometimes people are like, you're not understanding what I'm talking about. And I was like, you have to give me some grace because I don't understand it. And I need like there's time,
Mm.
I need time and a learning curve. So yeah, I think, I always go with kindness first, right? As long as we're kind to one another, we can talk about it. And if people are offended, we can like try to work it out. And if it doesn't work out, it's okay. We understand the baseline that is that we're not there to hurt one another, which is important. And that's the trust. I think that's extremely important.
Yeah, I mean, those skills are so important, especially when you're asking, what do you need from me right now? Because I think, a lot of people jump in and try to problem solve and try to move forward. And
Yep.
just really that assessment piece that takes like 5 seconds is so important. So I love what you both said. So, I mean, fun promo stuff, particularly since you're destigmatizing these complex emotions and mental health among Asian communities. Um, please give us those details, promote, 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 which is not typically, I don't want to overgeneralize, typically in our cultural aspect of like bragging about our work, but I'll reframe it like, what are you proud of? What do you want people to see? I give you permission to do it. How about that?
No, Winnie.
Wow, wow, wow. What am I proud of? I mean, I'm certainly proud of this moment. Um, and I'm really proud that we have a lot of cast and crew coming to South by, and the fact that like not only were we able to make a film together, but we're able to celebrate this moment together. And I think that's also really important. Like that's part of the ritual is like we can't just keep go, go, go. Because that's not sustainable. We need to have like moments to pause and be like, hey, like we did something really cool here. And the fact that like we're all able to go, I think that would be really cool. And I think what I've done is against all odds. Like to be a female filmmaker of color, to have me, a number of short films, to have like finished my first debut feature. I understand that. I don't know what the statistic is. I think it's like less than like 2% of directors are women of color. So, you know, I'm I'm very proud of that.
Yeah, I want to say I'm really proud of Winnie and what she's accomplished. And like I'm proud of our whole team, what we've accomplished. I think it's rare that you jump on a project and everyone gets along really well. Everyone's really proud of the project. Even when like Winnie announced like, hey, we got into South by, people responded really quickly, like, oh, I want to be there. I want to celebrate with us. How do we do this? How do we like, how can I support one another? And that I think it's something that is rare, and you can see how community comes together. And like personally, I think I really want people to discover Winnie's talents. I think she's an extremely talented director and she has a voice, a very unique voice, and she has a story that she wants to tell. And I hope, I know that we made this film with community, with friends, but I really hope, people are willing to invest in Winnie's vision and help her bring her stories to life.
Thanks,
Absolutely.
Celia.
Well, thank you so, so much, Celia and Winnie, for being on the show. I appreciate you spending time with me. And, I would be on the set karaokeing in the background.
Come join us anytime.
Exactly. But thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate you. And Ashley, I know that you're in the background and I appreciate you as well. You're always so kind to schedule some amazing people for us.
Appreciate you and all the insight that you bring to our industry.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Stephanie, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
What have you learned by interviewing all these filmmakers? What is like a common thread from like a psychiatrist as like psychologist's point of view?
Wow, that's a good question. You flipped it on me. Well, I think that mental health is a theme in pretty much everyone that I've interviewed. I mean, it's not only that, everyone has unique stories behind the camera in their personal lives and how they even got there. Plus, my mom got to interview someone from SWAT, like with her question. So I made her proud. But yeah, mental health is such a huge theme. And I think when I tease apart people's stories, I'm able to kind of get into those aspects without, becoming so pressurized in a therapeutic environment. And I've just been so proud to see people of color in the industry and just being a cheerleader throughout your entire careers. I mean, as a fan, as I have two daughters, like Winnie and Celia, I have to say, like, I just thrive on seeing you succeed because we're showing them that Asian women can do anything, even against all odds. And I think it's even more important right now to have role models out there that can not only exist as a form of resistance, but for us to continue doing the work and putting our faces out there because people need to see that. And I think the people that I've interviewed have been really, really wonderful and great people. People don't come on the show. Fortunately, I haven't had one guest on the show be completely rude or like didn't want to answer questions or dig a little bit deeper. So I think people have felt fairly comfortable in sharing those things.
That's amazing. Yeah, and I agree with you. I always say storytelling is a way to change the world, and that's how we create like empathy and compassion and understanding amongst one another. So it's a vehicle for us to make the world a better place, in my opinion.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for like folding storytelling and filmmaking into your practice too. I think that's more kind of like interdisciplinary communication will, I think is a path towards healing.
Well, you've done a lot of research because you dropped active listening. And for those who don't know that, it's not just hearing what people are saying physically, but really summarizing and reflecting and letting the intention like seep into you so that you can respond in a more kind, compassionate place. So thank you for being wonderful people. My brother's going to be so jealous, Celia, that I got to talk to you, but you know what? Hey, he could catch the episode. So
Well, here's to Stephanie's brother. Stephanie's awesome.
yeah, Kevin, hear that. Well, thank you both so much. I hope you have a great rest of the press tour and have a wonderful celebration. It's going to be so great to see you guys on screen and just get the flowers that you deserve.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for listening. We would love for you to subscribe to the podcast and join our community on all our socials at colorsuccesspodcast.com. Looking forward to you checking out my memoir, Cancel the Filter, Realities of a Psychologist, Podcaster, and Working Mother of Color on Amazon and wherever books are sold. I'd love to hear your Cancel the Filter moments.
Well, I can give 'em more, 'cause when I'm on the field, you know it's game on.